zany, color outside the life experiences to help you paint a fresh perspective, to help you reframe, recover, and rediscover your purpose as you transform your life into your living masterpiece. I'm your host, Tanya R. Bankston, change doula, life coach, author, speaker, and mental health counselor. And my co-host here on the Brushstrokes show are my Brushstroke sisters, Dr. C.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Crystal Eason, author, emotional wellness coach. And sometimes in life, the colors are dark and sometimes they are bright. But just remember, you have the paintbrush to paint the picture that you desire, and never, ever give your brush to anyone else.
Yes, yes. And our special co-host for the month of August, Miss Valerie.
Hi, everybody. I am Valerie Stansel, your Purpose for Wellness Navigator. I am an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a domestic violence advocate, and many, many other things. And I am honored to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yes, and we are so excited. So tonight, we don't have any guests. We're just having candid conversation, kicking it brushstroke style in Studio A. We're talking about the 40 plus perspective on finding love, on dating, and just that whole male-female relationship and all of those dynamics that come together when you talk about being a more mature age and being out there on the dating scene. And all of those dynamics that come together. We're going to just talk about it. So let's just start off. Let's talk about the difference from being in your 20s in dating and being in your 40s plus, what your perspective is, what type of, what's important. I know one of the things that I talk about with my clients is developing a quote unquote, a template, those things that are most important in terms of your value system, in terms of communicating boundaries and communicating expectations. And I know sometimes it kind of comes off like a checklist. You know, I ask my clients if Mr. Right, because I'm normally talking to a woman, if Mr. Right showed up, two things. Number one, could you identify him based on his value system? And number two, would you have a healthy space to nurture the relationship? And almost all the time they'll say, yes, I can identify him. But they say, no, I couldn't nurture the relationship. I would probably self-sabotage. So ladies, chime in. What do you think?
For me, identifying in this day and age now, they come very correct. They come with their representative. So they come to you correct. So that can be very misleading because some of these men have, practiced this for quite some time. So they can come to you correct. And then having a safe space, a healthy space for them. I think it depends on what you consider a safe space and your vulnerability and your willingness to accept what they're giving you, the healthy space. I find, like a lot of times guys will tell me, oh, you're so busy, like, how do you have time for me? How do you do this? How do you, I would have time for you if you're the right one. I pour myself into my work because I am single. But if I found the correct one, then I could make a healthy space for you. But I mean, like you said, Tanya, it's a checklist. Now that I've been through what I've been through, it's a checklist.
I think it's key what you just mentioned. Now that you've been through what you've been through. And I think dating or what is different now is because of the things you've gone through and you know yourself, you know how you have developed over the years or after a life-changing experience, then you create your profile for what you need. And I think, Tanya, when you mentioned, are you willing to nurture the relationship? Well, if you don't have the capacity to discover yourself, then you don't have it in you to nurture a relationship. And opposed to when you were in your 20s, I was just having this conversation that you meet somebody, you go to the show, next thing you know, y'all go together. No questionnaire, no, finding out what his heart is like. Hey, I like him, he like me, let's do it. And so now trying to do a checklist of values, that takes time to even see if he qualified.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's good. That's good. Because back in the day, you used to just, oh, hey, how you doing? Here's my number. And it was no thing. It wasn't like, is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? What type of person is he? Now the dynamics have changed, and it's very obvious, on some of these online dating sites, which people are using now, especially because of COVID and all the different things that are going on, that you have to, it's a different world. It's a different world.
It is so very different.
And the thing is that when you are on a computer screen, your persona is totally different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so different because I can remember my pastor when I was getting divorced about 8 years ago. He said, Crystal, it's not the same. And I understood in terms of what he meant as time has gone by since I dated. I mean, I hadn't dated since my 20s. Now, at that time, being in my middle 40s to now almost middle 50s, the whole culture has changed. In my experience, some men who have been hurt or who have gone through things, their bounce back is a little different. And so the pursuit of the woman has changed. And also, there's so many to choose from. Mm-hmm. So the pursuit that would help a woman feel or know that he's into me somehow have got lost in translation.
Okay, and then what about, and I'm sorry, I don't want to get his name wrong, but this brother that's out here,
Samuel.
Okay, so you guys know what I'm talking about.
Is that the one whose wife wears the bonnet? Like everybody was talking about her with the bonnet. That one?
I don't know. I don't know if he's married or not, but I know that
out there.
He's given his perspective on dating, and he's like giving the men kind of like this heads up, and like based on some of the pointers and tips that he's sharing, men they're not like Dr. C said, they're not doing the dating thing. It's like they realize they have a lot of options, and if a woman is being too specific in terms of communicating her expectations and her boundaries, then they're like, I'm out of here, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm out of here.
Because he speaks a lot to women not being cooperative. Yeah. So an opposing perspective or an opposing view would present as not being cooperative.
Yeah.
And women, according to him, need to learn how to look at an average man without unrealistic expectations. Because if you are asking for the 6-figure value man and you are not making 6 figures, or you got 2 or 3 kids, then you need to choose. You need to select on your status.
Well, I think that there's some merit to that. I think that if you're not presenting a certain type of way, then you shouldn't be asking for those things.
I agree.
Like the sister is saying, hey, I want a brother that has A1 credit, but hers is messed up.
Right.
I want a brother that's making 6 figures, but she's not working at all.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that that's fair, and I don't think that is realistic. Now, I think that you have to have some things that you're coming to the table with in the first place before you're even out there, period.
But it seems like, and this is just in conversation, the woman that does come to the table with a higher credit score, education, maybe a business, that she's perceived is not even needing a man. Right. And so you can't win for losing. So on one end, if I'm not there, or if I haven't reached a certain financial status, I don't have the right to request it because I'm not there. But when I am there, then you look at me as not needing a man. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm punished either way because how I'm viewed.
And that's true. I have found that to be true because I've been told by several different people that I'm intimidating, and I'm like, how am I intimidating? I'm just a plain old girl. Because you own a business, you look nice, you have yourself together, your profile is together. It's very, you know what you want. It's listed this, and this. And I mean, it's simple stuff like be funny, like to have fun, be spontaneous. It's nothing that I think is out of the norm. But, some men, find my appearance and what I do intimidating. And that to me is so wrong that you're prejudging me without even knowing me. And then they want you to be like, I'll talk to you and I'm going to talk to her and her and her. But how do you, but you want to be in a relationship. You want to start a relationship. So how do you get to know me when you're trying to learn Susan and Jane and Sally and all that? And it's just so different.
But are they really trying to get a relationship? Or okay, so with women, maybe in our 20s, we're looking for something different. In our 40s, we want a more satisfying relationship or more permanent relationship. But maybe a lot of men, it's just, hey, it's just sex, period. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Yeah.
And that's what it is the majority of the time. That's the conversation right out the door. I just, it's almost to the point like I just want to not date anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone anymore because they say they want the good woman, their queen. They want to have a good relationship, but that's the first thing they talk about. So how do you get to know me? A relationship is more than sex. To me, the sex is part of the relationship, like it's an added bonus. I mean, I guess I'm just sounding old, but, I look for different things right now in this stage of my life. I'm 66 years old. So I'm not looking for, the same things I was looking for when I was younger. I want some stability, some substance. I want you to bring more than your knife and fork to the table. I want you to have a vision. I want you to have some goals, and I don't think that that's asking too much, but it seems to be asking too much.
And Valerie, is that with men in your age group or is that with men who are younger? I mean, because I would expect that from somebody that's younger.
The men in my age group, I'm telling you, I'm like, you're 70 something years old and you're still playing these games that you played when you were 20, but you want a good woman. You want this and you want that, but you're still playing these games. You come in with all this drama. You want to come live with me after talking to me like for 1 hour. They want
One hour, Valerie, one.
Yeah, girl, look, I could be on here all night and tell you stories. It's crazy.
Listen. I
It's
have been
crazy.
single now a total of 8 years. And it's nothing I've ever seen before in my whole life.
That's exactly.
And so as I'm listening, before we got on the show, it's a church called the Change Church, and they're doing the Pray for My Spouse challenge. So the couple talked about the 4 different types of lovers, and one being the selfish lover, and then the other was being the insecure lover, the fearful lover, and the desperate lover. But these lovers are derived out of trauma, rather hardcore trauma or any trauma that impacted them emotionally, of course, that navigates into your relationship. And I don't know if men do that kind of work that we do after being broken. And not every woman does, but the woman who decides I need to heal and become whole. And so you meet this man and they're still thinking that sex is the epitome of a relationship, when, no disrespect, now if after you'd had it 20, 30 years, it's like, come on, can we find something else to be excited about? And like you said, that's an added bonus to what we have in friendship, in companionship. And it takes time to discover that with someone.
Exactly.
And so these streets ain't for me.
It's just
And before I got married, between my my second marriage and my third marriage, I dated on the internet, and I had a chance to meet some guys and go out on some dates. And a couple of the guys, actually, I'm still friends with to this day. So that's 12 plus years later. But would I do it again? I think not. It's like the internet dating is just totally different.
It is totally. One of my friends, I don't know what this organization or company is that she used, but she paid a couple $1,000s, for this dating site, dating service. And these men are of the caliber that you would be looking for. You tell them what you want and they match you. And, they're ready to get married. They're ready to be in a relationship. And they come with all the bells and whistles, that you're looking for. But am I going to spend that kind of money to find a date? I don't think so. But I mean, she has found the perfect guy. He's like every woman's dream, and he's consistent. He's not changed. He's consistent. And I guess for my $49.95, that's what I'm getting, the $49.95 version of men. If I if I increase my my financial
your membership price,
right, then I can get that type of quality of men. But it's just so different. And for me, like Dr. C was saying, the trauma, the effects that dating could have, because for me, unfortunately, the first time I dated after my husband passed, it was I think 4.5 to 5 years after. I met someone on a site, and it turned out to be a domestic violence. He was a criminal. I mean, this thing went on for a year, in court, this, family court, criminal court. And, therapy, tons of therapy for me to be healed so that I can come back out here and be open enough to want to embrace thinking about being in a relationship again. And that's some of the things that, as you go on these dating sites and date, like I said, this person came with his representative, and he was everything that I wanted. everything. I'm almost to the point like I can remember telling myself, he's too good to be true. Like why is he on a site? It should be like women outside my door. Excuse me, I'm supposed to be with him. But and you have to realize where you are in your emotional state as well. I'm a strong woman. How did I let this happen? Where was my mind frame? That I didn't see that. And not to say that, because you're in that frame of mind that, their behavior issues and their domestic violence it warrants what was done to you. But you have to also take some responsibility that you didn't recognize. Why didn't I see that? Why didn't I see the red flags? And, a lot of times women don't know what the red flags are. Or they see the red flags and they want to make them yellow, so they'll proceed with caution.
and see, and that's my thing, because I think sometimes people, you hear all the time about situations where a woman, an older woman, a more mature woman is dating a man, and next thing you know, she's in this space where she's lost all of her money. He's robbed her blind. And it's like, it's blaming the victim in some sense.
I couldn't hear the last part because she froze.
She said it's blaming the victim in a sense. When you say, why didn't you see it, or you should have done something differently. But I think too, the flip side of that, by nature, we want love.
Right.
We want love. We desire love. And one of the things I recently just discovered, spending so much time alone in the pandemic, is that even in healing or becoming whole, it still doesn't take the desire away for wanting love. And so how do you know sometimes which way to navigate when someone does present everything that you want or everything that you desire over a period of time? It's crazy. I watch a lot of this Fatal Attraction where couples were married 10 years. Then next thing you know, he's setting up or she's setting up a way for their death. Mm-hmm. How do you see that coming?
I don't even know how to answer that, because it's so many variables there, and I think vulnerability, because when you want to be with someone and you finally are with that person, you enter into that relationship with a vulnerable aspect, like you come with yourself open, because you want to be with this person, or you're looking for love, like you said. And, now it's I don't like, oh my God, did he do this? Did he do that red flag? Did he do that red flag? I'm more relaxed, more laid back, and I just listen, and observe and watch his body language, and I've just learned so much in that period of time. And then, actually putting, my gift of picking up on people's energy, and knowing how to look at people a little differently now. It's just, it's just such an uncomfortable feeling. Like you're always checking, it's like checking balances,
Right.
Right. What did you just say?
Right.
Okay. I'm
checking, assessing, analyzing, and then it's I think for myself, because sometimes as women, we have the potential to mess up a relationship too. It may come differently, and to always, because then if they do or say something, you don't want to be extreme. And so you're thinking, well, sometimes challenges come in relationships. They come in different ways, shapes, sizes, forms, and it isn't life or death, or it's not detrimental. So you say, well, let me see. Because to think that there'll never be a challenge or something that makes you uncomfortable is unreasonable.
Right.
So sometimes I think it's just hard to measure unless it's blatant or unless you know the person has a history of A, B, C, D, and E, then you know that potential is there.
Right.
Because whatever my history is, even though I'm saved and whole and sold out, I still can be triggered.
Yes. Yes.
And so I have the potential to, destruct, even though I work on myself daily. So I just think sometimes it's very hard to depict because there is good and evil in everyone.
Yes. Including us.
Including us. And
You know,
so I think when you begin to really establish your non-negotiables, one for me is don't holler at me.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. You might be passionate, excited, or whatever, but that's a number one red flag for me because I grew up in a domestic violence household.
Right.
So I don't want to be yelled at all because that makes me go to fight or flight instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's hard sometimes because ultimately we want to be loved.
Right. And I think that sometimes we look at people in the wrong way, like they seem like they're okay. And we see things that they do and we try to, disregard that, and I have, like Tanya, I have met a couple guys that I'm friends with, like we just talk all the time, like if they see me, like when I had my knee surgery, like, oh, how you doing? You need me to come take care of you? And it's in sincerity, not looking for anything,
Right.
And, I met a really nice guy. He's very, very nice. Like, I'm like, that was that one in a million, person
Right.
that you meet that is, he's a very good guy. But then sometimes, like you said, like you think that you're healed from something, and then that one thing will trigger you. And that's what happened with him and I. Something he did triggered me from my husband. And not a bad thing. It was really stupid. It was like he was on a lot of medication and he had all his medication out on the table. And it made me think of my husband who was on all this medication. And although he took it, he still passed away. So it just triggered me. And I'm like, okay, you got to get all this up and you got to go.
Right.
But then I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do?
Right.
So now it's just, I'm more cognizant of what I say and what I observe, because sometimes that one thing can trigger you because you think that you're healed from it. But
exactly,
little tiny trigger can be like, oh, I need to work on that some more.
But when you look at that, I think that's an ongoing experience because if you take grief, my mother died 16 years ago. And sometimes to this day, I can hear something and cry like she died yesterday. So I don't necessarily believe that being triggered is a sign, not years, when you know what triggers you and that kind of thing, but it just reminds you of how we have to continue to manage our behavior, manage how we think, manage our emotions. And it's just day to day because it's a journey. And when you know what your triggers are, then you'll know, okay, I'm triggered, but that doesn't mean it's the same situation.
Right.
It reminds you of that, but it doesn't make it that. So we have to make sure we're not jumping to, because I'm one too that will jump to an assumption or a conclusion. And I'll tell my guy friends, please don't let me define what I think you saying or doing. I need you to clearly tell me and show me, because then I'm going to define it myself. And it's going to be for my own defense mechanism. Then I'm going to shift gears.
Yeah. And I think that is very true. And, and another thing too, I think with this masculine and feminine energy, a lot of women have the masculine energy, like, oh no, you're not going to do that to me. And, oh no, you're not going to do that to me. So that turns a guy off, because you don't want to let yourself be seen as being vulnerable. because you want to come in like you got everything going on. And, I find, and I was like that, with the masculine energy. I have this, I have that, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I can do this for myself. I don't need you to do that for me. And I find when I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you're so cute. I don't say that, but I'm just saying, using that energy, then they're like, oh, well, let me give her my whole paycheck.
Right.
Because I've changed my energy. And I find that tends to work better. I think because before I was still defensive, so I wanted to protect myself, and not let you in. So now I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm good, and my voice changed.
Yes.
My whole body language changed, and my responses changed. So I have met better men, but I wanted to say this one thing, like how you were saying about how men come. I met a guy, his wife passed away June 23rd. And he's on a dating site.
See?
I'm like, she just picked. And like when I first started talking to him, it was 2 weeks. My wife passed away 2 weeks ago. But she was sick. Listen, my husband was sick for 14 years. That didn't mean like on the, July 16th, oh, let me go meet somebody.
Well, Bishop Jake say women mourn and men move on.
Yes. I was just like, and when he said it, I was quiet. He said, what's wrong? Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. But your wife just died 2 weeks ago.
Right. I heard men grieve hard, but they don't grieve long.
Right. And here's another. Just because they picked up the other, don't mean they not still attached to the one before.
Exactly. And
that's an assumption.
That's what I'm concerned about. Someone like that. And because I know how I feel.
But what do you think about people being in that space dating where they think, hey, the best way to replace it and get over them is to just replace it, period.
I used to think that way. I was hoping that I would experience this time. But what just I think what happens is you still avoid what went wrong, or if someone passed that hurt, you're not facing it and learning how to cope. And so your capacity for struggle in the new thing is even shorter because you haven't spent that time you need, to kind of release or whatever. I'm not saying it takes a year, 2, 3 years, but you do need that time. Because whether they know it or not, there's still something there that they need to confront and manage. And that's just it.
Did you guys talk about red flags?
No, we just said the word red flags, but we didn't say what some red flags are.
So let's talk about some of the red flags. And the question is, the red flags, are they different for internet dating than they are real-time dating, if there's a such thing?
I think that, some of the red flags that I know can be done on the internet or live. One of the biggest things, like that I learned in my class was love bombing. And they do that very quickly, some of them. You talk to them for a week or a day, and they're like, oh my God, I never felt this way before about anyone. Really? You never felt this way before about anyone? You're my soulmate. I want to marry you. Like me, taking me to go get a engagement ring the first weekend that I meet you. And sometimes women, I would say this for a younger woman. I don't think a seasoned woman would go for this as much. Some of the things that they do, like they don't want you around your family, then you think they're protecting you. Oh, he really loves me if he's, taking me to go get an engagement ring, if he's doing that. Those things to you look cute, or those things to you look like, oh, this makes him a good man. But you really need to examine why he's doing this. What is his motive for doing this? And I think as women 40 plus, we would look at that with, red flags blaring everywhere, and, unfortunately, this is the things that go on, and this is the things that go on in our age bracket, unfortunately. I mean, some of these things that I have experienced, you would think that they were in their 20s and 30s.
Now, we didn't, go ahead, Tanya.
No, go ahead, Dr. C. Some red flags.
So
for you.
with that, well, red, I think I just mentioned raising your voice. I don't like to be hollered at. That's a red flag for me. That's a strong red flag for me. Very sensitive to how you talk to me. And then just a lot of isolative behavior, where you're really isolated, and I don't know where you live, but you know where I live, and that type of behavior. I listen for anger, maybe with family members or their mother. If, they mad at their mama since the age of 5, that's a red flag for me.
Absolutely.
So I'll probably keep on and on.
What about the I'm available Monday through Friday, but Saturday and Sunday I disappear?
Right.
Or the ones that tell you can't call them, like, can we talk on Duo or Google?
Right. Oh no.
Or something like that. Like, why can't I have your phone number?
Right.
Or to your house or to your cell phone. You have mine.
Right.
No. It's just easier to do it on Google or whatever, application you want to use.
WhatsApp.
Right.
All that.
And see, I don't do any online anything because I don't like feeling like I'm advertising. And I just don't do it. I'm learning, I have a friend and we're friends, and I'm still learning because what I realize is that I don't even know how to date. I've never done it. This is the first experience for me at this age. I was always in a relationship, and then I was married 15 years. So I've never really done it because in my 20s, either we was together or we wasn't, and I moved on to the next one quickly. So it was always easy to just go with somebody else, and that's not like that now. So,
ladies, let's take it. I'm sorry, Dr. C. But you know what? I think that's wise to realize that, hey, that's an area where I need to improve in. That right there is healthy. We have to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back from the commercial break, let's talk a little bit about communicating boundaries and communicating your expectations to that person that you're newly meeting and potentially is going to be a dating partner. Let's talk about that after this commercial break. And I am so excited about, I'm going to be getting my mental fitness pack, Amari, that's the product. Miss Wasim Johnson is the distributor, and she ships throughout the United States. You can reach her at WATSENE Johnson at gmail.com or 248-255-1291. That's Amari, and get the mental fitness pack. I will be getting mine soon, and I'm so excited about it. So let's segue into communicating boundaries and communicating your expectations. So oftentimes as women, we don't communicate exactly what our boundaries are or what our expectations are. We kind of like feel like, okay, he should pick up on these vibes that I'm giving him. He should figure it out. But what are some boundaries that we tend to fail to communicate and then want to hold a brother accountable for at a later date?
That's a great question, because that's not something I do. That's not my MO.
Okay, so what are some boundaries that you communicate right off the rip?
Right off the rip. No, of course, not conversation number 1, but it might be in conversation number 5.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not looking for friends with benefits.
Mm-hmm.
That although you may not be, I'm not saying you're going to be my husband, but I'm dating with intentions. Because honestly, and I'm not the woman that say I don't need a man, but God has had it that I've learned how to be alone. And even in tough times, I still know how to be alone. So if I'm going to change my day-to-day life to entertain someone, it has to be with intentions. And I'm coming out the gate with that conversation. And I don't feel like it sounds needy or too demanding. That's the place I'm in. And
absolutely,
it doesn't really matter to me what you think about it. If that's not the place you're in, that's fine. We can be friends. But I'm not going to invest any time because I don't have time.
Exactly.
I don't have
that.
Exactly. Absolutely. That and that's fair and that's respectable. It's like, why not from the very beginning say, hey, this is where I am. I know I told my husband, I said, this is not an ultimatum, but this is a guarantee. This is a guarantee. I don't do long-term boyfriend, girlfriend things. So if you're not going to make that investment, then we need to go our separate ways from the very beginning.
And that's important. I think that's important because I think, I don't know who I heard say this, what person I heard say this, but like, I want to get married. Okay. So if I'm talking to a guy who does not want to get married, then I'm wasting my time. I need to go with the person who wants to get married or the person who wants to do the same types of things that I want to do. And then when you talk about boundaries, sometimes we tend to, appease people by always saying yes all the time and doing more for them than we do for ourselves, trying to win them over. I'm not doing that. This is like Dr. C said, this is what I want to do, especially, I'm probably older than all of y'all, so I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time to play games with you. I don't want to play games. I know what I had. I'm not looking for my husband and another man, but I'm looking for those same values, for them to treat me that same way. And, for me, I don't care if you work at McDonald's. You have a job and you know how to treat me, and you know how to treat me like I want to be treated. So I don't look at people financially, I do, but I don't. Like
Right.
some guys are like, oh, well, you probably wouldn't want to talk to me because I'm a handyman. You work at a college and in a union, so I know you're making money. So
Right.
why put yourself down? And I think we tend to, sometimes lower our standards, our boundaries, trying to get him to want to be with us. No, if you can't meet what these little few things that I want, then I don't, it's a no go for me. And I can be, it's 7 years, I can do 7 more, because I'm not going to settle,
Right.
just to have someone.
Right. That's what they talked about. The desperate lover was, that this isn't it, but you just desire it so badly at the expense of your boundaries, your, the rules, that your own rules of engagement. When we break our own rules to be with someone, then we have to create our own red flags for ourselves. From us, not necessarily what did they do, what am I doing that
Absolutely.
I said I wouldn't do. Am I moving too fast? Am I giving too much? Am I always available? What am I doing to break or cross my boundaries for myself?
Yes. Now, Dr. C, what you just sounded like? You just sounded like old-fashioned value system. In today's modern world, people don't like old-fashioned value systems. But I think when we stray away from what worked, then we have some of what we have right now.
Well, I say that because, Tanya, Coach T, when you have experienced emotional toxicity from yourself based upon your own behavior, and you heal, and you know what it took for you to get to this place, it doesn't mean you can't go back down the cycle of disparity. So I know what I'm capable of in my triggers and being toxic. So to avoid me having to heal all over again, my relapse, and have to start all over again, I need to tread lightly so that I am managing who I am. So it's not as much about them, because they can only do what I allow. Right. It's about how do I manage me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I totally think, there are some values, no matter what, some things that you do not plan on deviating from, no matter who the person is. And I think that those are the type of things that need to be communicated right from the very beginning. If it's disrespect, if it's physical abuse, if it's verbal abuse, cheating, whatever it is, those type of things should be communicated in the very beginning. So it's like, okay, I have shared with you what my boundaries are, and being able to not only communicate them, but to defend them should a violation occur. Too oftentimes it's like, okay, well, yeah, he did that, so I'm going to forgive him, I'll overlook him. But now you have just watered down your value system.
And he knows that, and he will, and that, he sees that, that weakness.
And we do that.
That breaking, it's not like a breaking point. I guess it's more like a weakness. And, he will just use that to just slide on in and do what he wants to do, because he knows that if he does that and he acts like this, then you will do that, so we have to sometimes figure, I don't think that we should break our boundaries, especially if it's something that's important to us. I just don't think I can do that, because I don't want you to think that you can just do whatever you want.
Now, what about the person that's hearing this show and says, well, they just sound like three women who are just like male bashing? Would you ladies say that that's what this conversation is about?
I would.
No, because we're talking more about who we are than them.
I mean, we're talking about what we want for our personal boundaries, what we've been through, the different traumas we've been through, and then what we don't want to have, what we don't want to continue to be in. You know, I don't think that, I haven't, well, I mean, I guess I did. It's not like we're saying, well, they do this and men do this and men do that. We're talking in general, and we are mostly talking about ourselves as women and what we're looking for in a man, and it's not to say that they're not out there, like the guy I talk to now, I mean, it's like a long thing that we're going through. It's like,
he might be watching this show, Valerie. You better be careful.
He already knows I talk about him about this kind of way. But, I think he wants to be sure, and I want to be sure.
That's it.
We've both been hurt, and it's like, and we talk, and I think that, like you said, Coach T and Dr. C, setting those priorities, setting those boundaries right off the bat, like this is what I, like, they're like, so what are you looking for in a man? I hate that question. Because to me, that is giving you the ammunition to come back to me the way that I want you to be.
Yes.
I had to learn that from the domestic violence issue. So now when they, they're like, why are you on the site? Same reason you're on the site. Why are you on the site? You're looking for a date, right? Okay, then that's established. We don't need to go into what I like, what you, we can do that when we decide that we want to move to the next step.
Right.
All that giving, exchanging information and talking, about what you want from him. I think that, that's one thing that this dating place that my girlfriend goes to, you can't do that. Like say, okay, I have a date. He calls me. We say, hi, how you doing? We're going to go on a date on Friday at 8:00. That's it. And then you have to go back to them and tell them what you talked about with this person. So then when you have the date, that is when you start talking. And then you go back and then give them another report card, like you liked them or you didn't like them. But some of the things that they have set in place are things that we need to do in order to establish the beginning of a good relationship. And I think, we're so eager to, like, we just want to, like Dr. C and I keep saying, because we want to be loved. Like, so we're just going to give you everything, here, let me just put all out here for you. Here's my thesis. Here it is. Go for it. I don't want to keep giving you information that, and then sometimes you talk to people. I've talked to people where we've had a conversation, not how long you've been on the site, how many people you dated on the site, just general conversation. And it was like I've known that person forever. And that's rare. That's rare.
Well, whatever happened to just old fashioned, like, hey, I have a friend and my friend is single and let me hook you up with my friend and you guys go out on a date. Whatever happened to that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I ask people that.
That's usually how I meet somebody.
I haven't met anybody. All my friends are like, no, I don't know anybody.
Oh my goodness.
And my guy friends, they definitely won't. The guys that are like my brothers, So, but like I said, I have a friend. He's a nice man, and we'll see.
So how do we give our female listeners hope?
Hey, only through Christ Jesus himself, because my theory is Father God and the Holy Ghost know his daughter.
Yes.
And there is no way He's going to let me live the rest of my life alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I pray that he just teach me how to wait the right way.
And you know what? That's a good point, because I was having a conversation with a friend, and so I said, well, and this is a while back. So I said, well, you know what? Maybe I'm just not that person just to get married and to be in a relationship and stuff like that. And she
Oh, right. That's a good
said,
part.
do you like to have sex? You like to have sex, and you want to do it in a way that's godly. So you need to follow the guidelines as put forth in the Bible, and that means that you need to be married. So that right there solves the problem of maybe I'm not meant to be married. It's like, no, maybe you need to wait. Maybe you need to be godly. Maybe you need to do some things that you need to do in terms of being more disciplined, being more structured, having a closer relationship with Christ, getting those things in place first before you get into a dating relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, the way she explained it, it was kind of like a no-brainer. She was like, if you like to have sex, you had sex, and you're a Christian, you need to do it the godly way.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I believe that. I think that, and I think that some, if women are listening, every woman that is listening isn't a Christian.
Exactly,
So they're going to do, things that they want to do, But I think that you should proceed with caution, and first and foremost, think of yourself, and how you value yourself and your self-worth. Like, you're just, because you want to have sex with somebody, you just want to meet somebody and have sex with them. I mean, if I wasn't a Christian, I would choose who I want to give myself to. And, you'd have to meet certain criteria for me to want to do that.
Absolutely.
And I've prayed and I've asked God, and the gentleman that I'm talking to has prayed as well. And we know that this is supposed to happen, but I think we're both just being very cautious and, letting God do what God does, and not letting us do what we want, because if that was the case, we could be like little rabbits, every day.
How long have you been dating? How long you been dating him?
Okay, this has been over a year, and he's still hurt from that situation of me asking him to leave. So, it's like really baby steps. But now, we've progressed to, we realize that we want to be with each other. So, we're just taking baby steps, and I know that I want to be with him. And so I don't talk to anyone else. My focus is on him, and my focus is communicating with God. Is this who you want me to be with? What do you want me to do now? How do you want me to act? How do you want me to proceed? And just give me all the equipment that I need to do what you want me to do, to move how you want me to move.
So, Dr. C, Val, a takeaway. Give our listening audience a takeaway or two as we close for dating after the age of 40.
This is so cliche-ish, but it's real. It's like, really, I mean, the desires are gonna be there. I'm not trying to have that testimony of I ain't had a man in 30 years. However, while you wait, date yourself.
There you go. That's what I was going to say.
I love
While
it.
you wait, I date myself absolutely every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, Val, you can't say the same thing Dr. C said.
No, but I agree. But I think that once you realize who you are, and when you love yourself, and you know your self-worth, then you won't settle for anything. And again, then it's dating yourself, making yourself, I love myself, so I will treat myself, and that's what I'll continue to do until, Mr. Right comes along. I'm not going to not do anything. I'm not going to not have fun. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to date myself.
Mm-hmm.
I can take myself to a restaurant. I can take myself to the movies. I can take myself anywhere I want to take myself. But I don't think we should lower our standards.
Yes, yes. And my only tip, I guess, would be to fall in love with the person who looks back at you in the mirror, communicate your boundaries, and communicate your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my tip. And that's my tip even in marriage.
Exactly.
Don't make that assumption that the other person understands what your boundaries are or understands what your expectations are. Because when you make that assumption, then it's a whole lot of other things that come after assuming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, definitely we're going to have this conversation again. Maybe next time we'll spice it up a little bit. But until next time, this is the Brushstrokes Show and the Brushstrokes Sisters, and we are just telling you to, as Dr. C said, pick up that paintbrush and paint your picture and never give it away, your paintbrush away. I am Coach T, Tanya Bankston, and reminding you to aim high, take flight, come soar. Till next time, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
From abandonment of her father, molestation and date rape, to domestic abuse, dependency and divorce, Tanya Bankston is no stranger to the struggle. But she made a conscious choice to walk as a victor and not a victim. She calls these life challenges brushstrokes, and in her book, The Art of Reinvention, she offers a roadmap to rejuvenation, redemption, reconnection, and restoration. This book encourages women to take action and reclaim their joy to reposition themselves for happiness.